From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
What do farmers grow in Oregon? Well, almost everything. We'll take you on a tour as part of our Ag States of America. More losses caused by bird flu, but what does it mean for humans?
Raising the red flag or causing some alarm among researchers.
The latest warning from health officials as the winter wheat crop continues to struggle.
You know, when you're dealing with essentially about 75% of the crop that is in, a fair to poor condition.
Why the markets don't seem too concerned just yet. That's right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. There are big concerns right now about the nation's winter wheat crop, with extremely dry soils persisting in the southern plains. For example, in Kansas, 50% of the crop right now is rated poor to very poor. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, the issue isn't just contained to Kansas.
Clinton, while the wheat market may not be respecting it, the latest U.S. drought monitor showed 53% of the nation's winter wheat areas were in some level of drought, down just 2 points from the previous week. Plus, Monday's state crop ratings for winter wheat show very little improvement. Look at Oklahoma. Their crop is rated only 29% good to excellent, down a point, with 43% of the crop poor to very poor. Colorado dropped 4 points to 36% good, none rated excellent. In Texas, 22% of the crop is headed, and while the crop rating improved 6 points to 23% good to excellent, 44% is still considered poor to very poor. And in the top wheat producing state of Kansas, the good to excellent rating improved 2% to 19%, but half of the crop is in poor to very poor shape. Yet market analysts say it's too early for the market to respect these poor crop ratings.
You know, when you're dealing with essentially about 75% of a crop that is in, a fair to poor condition, it's not really being traded. But the thing that we all kind of know is that traders in wheat understand that if you get rainfall in the spring, the condition ratings can kind of be thrown out.
So traders don't typically add weather premium to the market until mid-April or May.
And then we'll have weather forecasts that are a little closer. Right now we've got an awful lot of equal chances in the 30-day and 90-day forecasts about moisture in a good part of the country. And so we're just going to have to wait and see how that weather pattern ultimately, comes at us.
Rain this spring, when the crop has hit the reproductive stage, can change the yield potential of the crop in a big hurry, according to Beadle. Now, while drought still has control of the High Plains region, Beadle says with the weather pattern shifting from La Nina to El Nino, traders also sense that there are better chances for rain in wheat country this season.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now it's the opposite story on the West Coast and in California. Forecasters say the state is getting hit with another atmospheric river, which can be described as a fire hose that blasts saturated air from the tropics into elevated latitudes and spraying increased amounts of rain or snow. Now, the state has already seen at least 11 of these atmospheric rivers this season. The National Weather Service says the San Bernardino Mountains could see up to 4 feet of snow by the end of today. And too much rain is forcing some California dairy farmers to relocate their operations as floodwaters rise around them. DairyHerd.com talking with Tulare County producer Ryan Junio. He says his farm had to evacuate one dairy that sits south of the Tule River. It's home to about 4,200 cows. A director with the California Milk Producers Council saying that flooding in the southern San Joaquin Valley has caused the evacuation of a small number of dairies, with another dozen or so where flooding could necessitate evacuation. And that storm hitting the West Coast is continuing to move east. Meteorologist Chuck Hebert joins us with an update.
Well, for Wednesday, things are going to be relatively calm, but we do have an opportunity for some severe weather on Thursday and Friday. Take a look here. You can see the precipitation working its way through the Midwest. This is the Thursday precipitation off to the west in western Illinois that will move through Indiana into Ohio. And then that line right there, off down into Texas, that's where there could be some severe weather as well. You can see here off to the west of Chicagoland, a little pocket here of a potential for a few severe storms. And then down to the south on Friday, Dallas all the way down to the Texas-Mexico border. We've got an update on wheat conditions this morning. David sharing this video of a wheat field in western Kingman County in Kansas. What you can see is a whole lot of dust. Right now, 100% of the county is in a drought. Hopefully, they'll get some moisture soon. Okay, I'll be back coming up with your forecast.
Happening right now, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin holding day 3 of meetings in Moscow. After talks with Xi, Putin said a Chinese peace plan could provide a basis for a settlement of the fighting in Ukraine when the West is ready for it, but he added that Ukraine's Western allies so far have shown no interest. Putin warmly welcomed Xi for the 3-day visit the two major powers described as an opportunity to deepen their, quote, no-limits friendship. China's appetite for Moscow's oil, gas, and coal has soared since the invasion of Ukraine. Beijing's spending on Russian energy ballooned to $88 billion in the year through February. Now that's up more than $31 billion from a year earlier. It's been a record season for bird flu. Experts say we're seeing the deadliest outbreak ever of the illness among birds. There have been more than 6,300 known cases of bird flu in all 50 states, according to the CDC. In 47 states, there have been multiple outbreaks among poultry involving more than 58.5 million birds. Now, the risk to humans remains low and can only spread through direct contact with an infected animal. But health officials say you still need to be cautious.
You see a bird that has died on your grounds and your property, don't go up and handle the bird, because what we're seeing is that in the few cases of avian influenza among humans, that has been the route.
USDA reporting a case just last week that impacted 500 head of poultry in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Nearby cattle contracts and crude oil recover while grains turn lower, including wheat. We'll discuss all of that next in analysis. And later, we're headed west to visit the ag states of America and see how farming gets done in Oregon today in the country.
Ag Day is sponsored by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels, perfected in conventional, excels in no-till. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package.
As we've reported, Brazil is expected to pass the U.S. to become the world's largest corn exporter this year. The University of Illinois Department of Ag and Consumer Economics taking a closer look at the numbers. It says this has only happened once before, when the U.S. was in a drought back in 2012 to 2013, as you can see on this chart, with the U.S. there in blue. And it says Brazil being number 1 may not be just a temporary thing, saying the continued expansion of corn as a second crop, plus a recent opening of the Chinese market, could mean Brazil takes the top spot for a while. Wheat futures remain under pressure on Tuesday, and that spilled over into corn. Michelle Rook is back with more market analysis on wheat and other grains in Markets Now.
Markets mostly lower on Tuesday with the exception of the cattle market. Oliver Slope is joining us with analysis, and grains kind of fading some early strength on Tuesday, Oliver. And how much of that was just risk-off selling once again?
Yeah, I think a lot of that was risk off ahead of the Fed meeting. I think the average analyst estimate out there is for a 25 basis point hike. But I think more importantly, it's going to be what Fed Chairman Jerome Powell says after that at the 1:30 press conference and what they're going to do going forward. The Fed funds rate and looking at the futures market, they're starting to price in cuts starting in June and potentially a full point cut by September. So the markets are going to be watching that very closely. Undoubtedly, it will have a huge impact on money flow, that including the currencies, which will obviously have a spillover effect in the agricultural commodities, including the grain markets.
Yeah, wheat felt like we had just a little bit of hangover from that Black Sea export deal being extended as well.
Yeah, it did. And we got a little bit of a bid or a rally ahead of that deadline on March 18th. I think that there was maybe some concern that there would maybe be a little bit more higher tensions going into that. The fact that there wasn't, I think, invited sellers back into the market. And I think a lot of it was just technical, too. We were hovering right around that psychologically significant $7 level, but really weren't able to gain significant traction to take that market any higher. So the lack of follow through to the upside off of that relief rally has invited sellers back into the market. But again, all eyes are going to be on that Fed meeting, which will have big implications on money flow and commodities.
Absolutely. And then the next thing we're going to be kind of watching for is going to be their prospective plantings report. I also got to ask you about cattle, a little bit of a recovery rally there. Can we keep it going?
Yeah, I think we can. We did have a bearish seasonal trend start for the June contract, but I was talking with guys here over the last couple of days that I think this seasonal trend may have just came a couple weeks early. We got the big sell-off over the last couple of weeks. The cash markets is still pretty stable near 164, 165. So I'm looking for that April contract to potentially fill the gap near 164. From there, I think it's going to be a bit of a tug of war between the bulls and the bears. And I hate to really beat a dead horse, but all eyes are going to be on the Fed meeting and the money flow. That's going to have a huge impact on all commodity prices.
All right, thanks for that update. Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures. Our full analysis at agweb.com, and more Ag Days coming up.
Meteorologist Chuck Heaver joining us here, taking a look at our national forecast. And pretty calm today as far as weather goes, but the end of the week, it could get pretty dicey.
Yeah, we have two opportunities for severe weather off to the west of Chicago and then down in the Texas area where that cold front's going to drag through. All right, headed up in the jet stream to see where the storms are going. We have a trough out to the west, and that trough is going to work its way across the country, and a storm's going to form along that boundary right here. And with that storm, we're going to have a cold front, and along that cold front on Thursday, we have a potential for some severe weather to the north, and then Friday down in Texas. And then things quiet down, some cold air intrusion right along the Canadian border, and then another trough out to the west, and continuing with the rain that they've been seeing literally all season. Center part of the country remains exceptionally dry. Off to the west, we are putting a dent in the drought, and off to the east, except down into Florida, we do have normal conditions. So that's a good thing for the people in those locations. Okay, so here's the situation with the radar. So we have some storms, again, just to the north of Atlanta, and some snow and rain, of course, off on the west coast. And that's going to work its way. As I said, Wednesday's not looking too bad. There's the storm we're talking about where you get these showers and storms along that boundary and then down to the south. That's why the Storm Prediction Center has a severe wet threat noted for west of the Chicagoland area, and then down to the south on Friday could see a potential for some severe weather from Dallas all the way down to the Mexico border. All right, precipitation right along that frontal boundary and down to the southeast is where it's going to be the heaviest. Snowfall, of course, there's not a lot of cold air in place, so all that will be retained up to the north and out in the Mountain West. All right, temperatures. Let's talk about temperatures. Bismarck, you're at 27 today, 84 down in Texas. It's been really warm. Over in Florida as well, Miami's going to see a high of 82. Then tonight for the cool down, all right, what are we talking? St. Louis, 42 degrees. But again, off to the west, Carson City at 23 degrees for the low. And then tomorrow, much warmer. Look at this, Cincinnati, 72 degrees, all the way down to southern Florida where it will be 82. All right, let's take a look closer to home. Gulfport, Mississippi, 71 for the high, 61 in sunshine. Bloomington, Indiana, 57 for the high, 53 for the low with some showers. And New Manchester, West Virginia, 52, a low 46.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
The push is on to get an extended comment period for USDA's Product of the U.S. labeling proposal. The North American Meat Institute filed comments March 14th, requesting an extension of the public comment period of at least 90 days. They say the change that FSIS is proposing to extend the labeling effort to processed products involves new items being covered. NAMI also saying it had started survey work of origin claims when FSIS denied petitions of the product of U.S. labeling back in March of 2020. The opposition isn't unexpected.
Great, put the voluntary label out there. I mean, I suspect there will be lawsuits on both sides of the issue to decide about whether to move it forward.
The proposed rule would require that single ingredient products and multi-ingredient products be labeled if the components of the products are from animals born, raised, slaughtered, and processed here in the U.S. There are reports China is battling a new surge of African swine fever. 3 managers at pig farming companies and analysts telling Reuters that positive detections exploded after the Lunar New Year holiday. They claim the order of magnitude in a single month has reached the level of the whole year of 2022, with one analyst guessing the current outbreak in northern production areas may be reaching 50%. Now, China imported 380,000 metric tons of pork in January and February combined. That's up almost 36% from the same period last year. The Oregon Trail was an iconic part of the push west. Up next, we'll see what ag industries remain in the western reaches of Oregon in the country.
The 2023 Bracket Busters Challenge, presented by Case IH, is underway. Who's still in the game? To find out, head to AgWeb now through April 3rd to check the leaderboard.
In the Country on AgDay is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
It has the deepest lake in the country and has the only state flag with different designs on both sides. We're talking about the great state of Oregon. And it also produces some terrific ag products, as Charlie Behrens tells us in today's Ag States of America.
But Oregon doesn't just have a deep lake, it has it all. The Pacific coastline, mountain ranges, valleys, plateaus, semi-arid shrublands, and deserts as high as a Portland hipster. It's also one of the few U.S. states with volcanoes. In fact, 5 of them are still active, just to keep you on the toes of your Nikes. Now, all these geographies make up different agricultural regions with their own climates and soils, allowing the state's farmers to produce a wide variety of products. It's like the Costco of agriculture. The top products are greenhouse and nursery plants. In fact, Oregon is a top 3 nursery producing state. They export ornamental plants, shrubs, shade trees, and perennials throughout the U.S. So the next time you're watering your lilacs, you can thank the great state of Oregon. The second biggest agricultural product in Oregon is cattle, followed by hay, dairy, grass seed, wheat, potatoes, pears, and wine grapes. Speaking of wine, Oregon is considered to have a world-class wine region and is regarded as one of the premier Pinot-producing regions in the world. The state is also home to more than 700 wineries and more than 1,000 vineyards that grow 72 grape varieties, making them the 3rd wine grape producing state in the nation. Also, did you know that the Oregon state flower is the Oregon grape, which has absolutely nothing to do with wine grapes other than it, contains the word grape. Beyond the state flower, Oregon is also #1 for several plants, including potted florist azaleas, hazelnuts, crimson clover, orchard grass seed, fescue, ryegrass, red and white clover, Dungeness crabs, Christmas trees, rhubarb, and peppermint. That's a lot of plants. The Northwest region is actually the perfect climate for cherry orchards, with the top 3 cherry producing states being California, Washington, and you guessed it, Oregon. In the early 1900s, cherries couldn't get shipped to the East Coast fast enough to arrive fresh, and the available methods for preserving them made them undesirable. But our pal Ernest H. Wiegand was a horticulturist from Oregon State, and he developed a preservation method that led to the modern maraschino cherry. So the next time you're knocking back a Shirley Temple, remember to give a cheers to old Ernie. Today, the 2 largest maraschino cherry producers in the U.S. are in Oregon and Washington, and Ernie's preservation method is still the standard practice. All right, time for a fun fact. Did you know that cherry orchards use helicopters to dry growing cherries after it rains? Which is the most James Bond way of drying cherries I've ever heard. Turns out that water can collect on the stem and cause the cherry to split. And the coolest way to dry them is with a helicopter. Now before I go, I know you're all dying to know, what is Oregon's official state fruit? It's a pear. Oregon is number 2 in the nation for pear production, second only to Washington. And together, these states produce about 84% of the nation's fresh pear crop. So you could say Oregon and Washington make quite a pair.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Now, if you'd like to watch more of these videos, you can head over to pivotbio.com/originals. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.